Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. Man, I was in hell. Real hell. And it was all because of Sarah, my wife. Honestly, it felt like she'd ripped my heart out and stomped on it. Let me tell you what happened. Just a few days before, I found out Sarah had been sleeping around. No regrets at all. And now she was pregnant with the other guy's kid. That's a punch in the gut, right? But then things got even messier. Our kids, bless their innocent hearts, found a little bunny rabbit outside and brought it home, all excited and begging to keep it. But I knew we couldn't. We already had enough pets, and a wild thing like that needed to be free. So I told Sarah to take it down to the far end of our land, a safe spot away from trouble. I told her it was important because there were hawks and stuff around. But Sarah, while I was at work, just didn't listen. She let the bunny go right in the middle of the yard. You believe that? She totally ignored me and put that poor little thing in danger. And what do you know? A hawk swooped down and snatched it. My kids came screaming back into the house, telling me about the bunny's cries. I was beyond mad, furious at Sarah for not listening and for putting our kids through that. But she just shrugged it off, called it just a bunny, and said the kids would get over it. But it wasn't about the bunny. It was about her not giving a damn about what I said, not caring about our kids' feelings, and being too stubborn to admit she messed up big time. Our kids were so upset they locked themselves in their rooms and wouldn't even talk to their mom for days. They even called her the bunny killer. I tried to smooth things over, but the kids were deeply hurt and angry. And honestly, I couldn't blame them. I was still boiling inside at Sarah. She was also mad at me for not backing her up, saying husbands and wives should always stick together. But the truth is, this wasn't just one thing. It was a pattern. She'd let me down before when it really mattered. We had a huge fight, and I brought up all the times she hadn't been there for me. She started crying and went to our room to sulk, leaving me to just think about how many times she disappointed me. The kids were only 4 and 5 then, and I'll never forget them freaking out on their mother. It was chaos. They ran to me crying, calling her that awful name. That name stuck, and even other people used it after her cheating came out. But looking back, that poor bunny feels like something from a long, long time ago compared to what I have to tell you now. I'm talking to you as a free man today. The divorce was final a couple of months back. Get ready for this. It's a long, twisted story. Sorry for not saying this sooner, but the other woman in my story, well, I was the one who had an affair first. Sarah gave me the cold shoulder for a week after the bunny thing. I tried to get the kids to stop being so mean to her, even giving them little punishments like taking away playtime. But every time they were mad at her, that bunny killer name came back. Eventually, Sarah stopped ignoring me and said she was sorry about the bunny. She said she just didn't want to be wrong. I said okay, and suggested we see a marriage counselor, but she said no. She acted like everything was fine, so I let it go, thinking maybe things were getting better. But a few weeks later, our oldest daughter, Lily, came to me really upset. She said there was another reason she was mad at her mom, something she'd been scared to tell me. I hugged her and told her she could tell me anything. What she said hit me like a truck. She said that for months, Mom had been bringing a man over while we were apart. That changed everything in a second. I felt this wave of disbelief and betrayal wash over me. Sarah had introduced our kids to this guy as her special friend. She'd kept the kids quiet about it by bribing them with stuff. But Lily knew something was wrong. Kids pick up on things, and I've always believed in listening to them. It bugs me when people don't. I'd also noticed Sarah acting weird. She was snapping at everyone, especially the kids. I tried to talk to her about it when I showed her my first post online about all this, but it blew up into a huge fight. She went off on me, attacking everything from how I look to my personality and habits. She even brought up that I used to smoke, which I quit like 10 years ago. Then she locked me out of our bedroom and cried so loud the whole house could hear. So when Lily told me about the other man, it all clicked. It was clear she was cheating, and her mood swings were like when she was pregnant. Actually, worse. I found out later, talking to friends and a therapist, that it was probably a mix of hormones and guilt. I wanted to believe it was a mistake, but I decided to set up some hidden cameras, just in case. I had them sent to work so no one at home would see. Then, on a night Sarah said she was going out with friends, I set them up all over the house. They were easy to install and connect to the Wi-Fi. Within hours, I could watch everything from my computers. At first, I felt like I was going crazy, and I hoped I was wrong and could just take the cameras down. But my worst fears came true within the first week. The guy Sarah was seeing was someone she used to work with. I remembered him from parties. They always seemed close. Sarah had quit her job years ago to be a full-time mom, and it was our decision. She'd stayed friends with her old coworkers. But this was different. What I'm about to tell you made everyone who knew about it hate Sarah. First off, this guy was a good 10 years younger than her. She'd actually been his mentor at her old job, trained him to take her place, and they'd stayed really tight. We were both over 40, but Sarah looked way younger, often mistaken for someone in her 20s, and it looked like she used it. I finally told my sister, Emily, what was happening, and showed her the camera footage. She said she'd suspected something for a while. She even remembered seeing Sarah at a bar, getting a little too friendly with a guy who wasn't me, though they didn't kiss or anything obvious. Just a lot of touching. She didn't say anything because she wasn't sure. To get more proof, I bought a GPS tracker and hid it in Sarah's car trunk. Emily and her husband, Tom, helped me. They followed the tracker on Sarah's next girls' night out. Surprise, surprise, she went somewhere completely different, like 20 miles out of her way. That's where she met him. Emily and Tom watched them from their car for a while and saw him rubbing her belly a lot while they talked. They recorded that too. When I saw the video, I knew she had to be pregnant with his baby. Her mood swings at home made sense then. I was a mess. Emily and Tom had to calm me down. I thought about drinking, but Emily talked me out of it. I took time off work, but told Sarah I was going on a business trip. She seemed weirdly happy about it. This whole thing made me question everything about her. It felt like the woman I'd been married to for almost 20 years had just vanished, and someone else who looked just like her had taken her place. I wondered if I'd ever really known her at all. To make things easier, I kept the cameras up, and Emily and Tom took the kids for a few days since they loved visiting them in the city. Sarah saw her chance. Just a few hours after I left, she called him, and he showed up at our house that night. I won't go into details about what they did, but on top of everything, they were making fun of me the whole time. They openly talked about their baby and how they needed to figure things out before her belly started showing. She was already over 3 months pregnant, so there was no way it could have been mine, especially since he was a different race. Sarah just brushed off his worries and casually said it wasn't even her first time cheating. She'd slept with another guy when she was 29. She told him she was tired of pretending to be a good housewife and being with a boring guy like me. She even said that if it wasn't for my money, she would have left me a long time ago. When he asked about the kids, she said, "He can have them." She didn't want them anymore because she thought they liked me more, and she was excited for her do-over baby. I was disgusted watching this on my laptop. I was in a cheap motel room, and I almost threw the laptop across the room. But I held it together, had a few beers, got some greasy food, and watched a bad movie. Then I spent half the night just lying there, thinking, until I finally fell asleep. I thought I knew Sarah so well. I loved her deeply. I would have given her anything, but this shattered everything. It made me realize that some people are just dark inside, and you never really know who they are until they show their true colors. That night, I decided to go for the kill in the divorce. Normally, I'm a calm guy, but push me too far, and I can be someone's worst nightmare. The next day, I went to a law firm that specialized in nasty divorces and asked for their meanest lawyer. We live in a state where it matters who's at fault, so Sarah was in big trouble the second I had her affair on camera. The lawyer was a bit hesitant at first about how fast I wanted to move, but when I told him everything and even showed him some of the videos, his face changed. He got this evil grin and said he'd start right away because this was the kind of case he loved. I had Sarah served with divorce papers a few weeks later, on a day I was working from home and the kids were at school. The sheriff himself handed them to her, and our cameras caught the whole thing. She looked terrified as she opened the envelope, read it, and then just lost it. She stormed into my home office, screaming at me, but I stayed cool. By then, I was completely done with our marriage. She wanted to argue, but I just told her I'd made up my mind, and I wanted her out of my house. I pointed out that I was the only one who'd ever paid the mortgage. She screamed back, saying I couldn't do this, even threatening to lie and say I'd hit her to get me fired. I calmly told her to go ahead and lie all she wanted, but it wouldn't help her. I reminded her that she was already planning on screwing me over since she was pregnant with another man's baby. Her eyes went wide, and she asked how much I knew. I just said, "Enough." I told her again to leave, but she refused, saying it was her house too. Then she locked herself in the bedroom. I watched on the bedroom camera as she had a meltdown, then grabbed her phone and called the cops. She was acting like she was in a total panic, but there was this little smile on her face while she was talking. She was a good actress, I'll give her that. I waited for the police with the front door wide open and welcomed them in. They seemed ready for a fight, but the house was calm, no signs of anything physical. Sarah rushed out of the bedroom, grabbed one of the officer's vests, crying and calling me a maniac. I calmly asked another officer if I could show them what was really going on. Surprisingly, he agreed, which seemed to shock Sarah because she didn't know I had recorded her. I showed the officer the footage on my laptop, including the video of Sarah saying she'd ruined my life. I showed them the video from the living room after she ran out of my office and into the bedroom. Finally, I showed them the bedroom footage of her calling the police and lying about me. It was all recorded from different angles. Even though Sarah told the police I'd hit her, there were no marks on her, and the cameras told a completely different story. I handed the police a USB drive with all the videos proving she'd called them with a false story. Even with all that proof, Sarah stuck to her lies, even saying the recordings were illegal. I pointed out that they were legal because they were security cameras inside my own house, not in public. Sarah looked at the police, begging them to do something. So they did. They handcuffed her, and she started crying uncontrollably. It was a messed up moment for me. This was the woman I'd loved for so long. The person I thought was amazing. Couldn't have been more wrong. As the police took her away, she screamed that they couldn't do this. But she didn't fight much, probably to avoid more charges. I immediately shut down all her credit cards in my name and stopped any money going into our joint account, leaving her to use her own savings to get out of jail. She'd saved plenty over the years. She was still working while the mortgage was in my name, so she wasn't broke when she came back for her car, which was also in my name. I packed a few suitcases with her clothes and things and left the key on the seat. It was clear she wasn't coming back inside. Sarah's parents came to see me the day after she got out of jail. At first, they only had her twisted version of events, the same lies she told the police. Her dad, especially, seemed ready to fight me. But when I asked if he knew about her affair or the pregnancy, he looked shocked and let me explain. I pulled out the laptop again to show them the videos. When they saw the truth, they were disgusted. They couldn't believe that was their daughter. They apologized to me and said they'd stay in touch to help with the kids. They even called Sarah right there and confronted her. When she tried to lie to her parents, they told her they were with me, they'd seen the recordings, and they knew everything. They told her to get out of their house immediately. She tried to backtrack, but they were firm. They told her they hadn't raised her to be a selfish, cheating liar who would try to frame her own husband. They basically disowned her over the phone, hanging up before she could say anything else. She tried calling back, but they ignored her. When they got home, they found she'd not only left but had also trashed some things, which broke her mom's heart, even after everything. I still think of Sarah's parents as my in-laws because they kept coming by to see the grandkids. But Sarah herself was dead to us all. Later, Sarah came back with him to get her remaining stuff. He wouldn't even come inside, and Sarah didn't say a word to me while she packed. She knew about the security cameras, and any more bad behavior would only make things worse for her. My sister and brother-in-law were there to keep an eye on her. Tom made sure to watch the other guy from a distance. Sarah kept packing even when the kids got home, and she didn't even try to talk to them, not even when our youngest cried for her. Before leaving, she grabbed some wedding photos off the wall and threw them on the floor, breaking the glass. I think she wanted a reaction from me the way she looked at me, but I didn't say anything. She grabbed her last bags and walked out the door. Once she was gone, I had to call my mom to come stay with me for a while because I couldn't handle the kids alone. I couldn't take much time off work, and daycare was tough. I also ordered DNA tests for the kids just to be absolutely sure, even though I was pretty confident they were mine. A lot of people suggested it, and it felt like the smart thing to do. Thankfully, the tests confirmed they were both mine. I also got tested for STIs and was clean, so at least there was that. About a week later, Sarah showed up at my door, suggesting we have a clean divorce if I agreed, meaning she'd get half of everything. I flat out refused. We argued back and forth, and she basically admitted she'd found out the law in our state wasn't on her side. We'd met, gotten engaged, married, and lived our whole lives there. There was no way she could avoid a big loss unless I agreed to settle, which I wasn't going to do. I told her she'd betrayed me, our kids, her parents, everyone by cheating. Then I slammed the door in her face, and she left quietly. I didn't see her again until we were in divorce court a few months later. By then, she was obviously pregnant and had a lawyer. The other guy was nowhere to be seen. I expected her to lie to the judge, and she tried a few times. But I had enough video evidence to prove she was lying, so she didn't stand a chance. Instead, she tried to drag out the divorce, refusing to cooperate and making all sorts of demands. She wanted most of my savings, among other things, and insisted I buy her out of the house, even though she'd never paid a dime towards it. I was pushing for full custody and to get her name off the house deed. I had the videos of her saying she didn't care about the kids anymore and her willingness to lie. Sarah kept stalling and changing her demands. But the judge wasn't having it. Since we were in a state where fault mattered and she was the one who cheated, her attempts to frame me only made things worse for her. In the end, she lost all custody of our kids and walked away with just her personal belongings. Considering everything, the financial settlement felt fair under the law. The house, which was only in my name, stayed mine. The car I bought for her, even though the title was in my name, was considered shared property, so I had to give her the title. She got a relatively small payout, $60,000, based on how long we were married and her financial situation. I got full custody of the kids because of her behavior and what she said on video about not caring about them. She willingly gave up all rights to them. The legal stuff can be different depending on where you live, and divorce outcomes depend on a lot of things. But in my case, the evidence I had, along with the laws in our state, made a huge difference. And about the police, they take false accusations seriously. Sarah trying to say I hit her led to her arrest. In the end, even though the divorce was a nightmare, I'm free now from all the lies and pain. I'm focused on my kids and moving forward. As time went on, I just tried to build a good life for us. Having my kids all the time let us get really close, and we made a lot of good memories. My family and friends were a huge help. I started doing things for myself again, found old hobbies, and even learned new stuff. It made me feel better about myself, and I even met someone new, someone who really understood family. We fell in love, and she became a part of our lives, loving my kids like her own. We became a real family. Eventually, what Sarah did started to feel like a bad dream, and I even started to forgive her, just for my own peace. I hoped she'd find some happiness too. My kids grew up happy and loved. We went through good times and bad together and learned a lot. Even after that dark time, we found our way to happiness and love, proving that even after the worst storms, things can get better. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.